جان برکو: من هرگز در گردهمایی شرکت نکردم که حتی ذره‌ای به شور، انرژی یا اشتیاق فراگیر و جذابی که امروز در این سالن به نمایش گذاشته شده نزدیک باشد. آلترناتیو پسر شاه نیست. طرح گذار 18 ماهه با امکان تمدید 18 ماه دیگر و نقش دادن محوری به خود در تعیین رؤسای قوا عملا باز تولید سلطنت است. گذشته و آینده‌اش نامتمایز است و مردم ایران او را فرا نخواهند خواند. سنجش مشروعیت آلترناتیو بودن بر زمین است. نگریختن، سامان دادن مقاومت، توانمندسازی دیگران و پذیرش فداکاری. این همان است که سازمان مجاهدین خلق طی نزدیک به 4.5 دهه پی گرفته و هزینه‌های سنگینی پرداخته است.
Thank you for the unparalleled warmth and generosity of the welcome you've just extended to me, to which I don't know whether I'm equal, but I'll strive my level best. Let me say, Ambassador Sands, Congressman Kennedy, other distinguished dignitaries here present, and of course, paying obeisance and massive respect to Secretary of State Pompeo. It is the most enormous privilege to be invited to be amongst your number today and to be in the presence, perhaps not physical, but it felt almost literally physical, of greatness in the form of a political leader who is an example to women and all who aspire to political leadership in every part of the globe, and I refer, of course, to Mrs. Maryam Rajavi. Part of the joie de vivre, the raison d'être of continued life at my age is the occasional opportunity to experience something for which I can find no precedent. I have been actively involved in politics, my friends, and I think you are my friends, for 46 years. I've been very privileged to attend meetings, seminars, congresses, conferences and conventions in virtually every part of the world, and periodically been privileged to be invited to address them. I have to tell you that I have never attended, still less been asked to address, a convention that comes anywhere near to matching the electricity, energy, or all-engrossing enthusiasm on display in this convention hall today. And in addition to saluting each and every one of you from the bottom of my heart, I want to say this: I've been present for every single moment of this great convention. I don't say that because I'm proud of it. I've been fortunate, lucky, privileged to be, and I think two tributes are in order. First, to the NCRI for conceiving, organizing, and facilitating with almost military precision and clockwork efficiency the best convention I've ever attended. Secondly, my friends, is it not also appropriate to offer our salutations to the 5 panels whom we were fortunate to witness and from whom we learnt this morning, each and every one sparklingly impressive, invigorating, and inspiring. Intellectuals, academics, entrepreneurs, each added something, but I hope people will forgive me if I say, in that sea of unrivaled brilliance, why there were 2 that will remain with me for the rest of my life. And those 2 panels, in no particular order, were the women's panel and the young people's panel. People who've suffered, people who've refused to accept defeat, people who have kept going, being positive, radiating enthusiasm, demonstrating commitment, doing the hard work, standing by others. And when we talk about standing by and remembering others, let's not forget those distinguished denizens of Ashrath III who have sacrificed so much for so long in support of so many. Ladies and gentlemen, if I want to put it in 3 words, what have we got in this appalling government in Iran? We've got a failed state. A failed state. It is nonsense on stilts to think for a moment that there is no alternative. Of course there is an alternative. And the alternative isn't to appease, because these people don't respect weakness. They shudder only at a display of strength. So before I turn to the heroes in this debate and the sources of succor and encouragement and positivity as we move forward, allow me to focus on my second point, and that is what the alternative isn't. My friends, I don't want to be too unkind, but that gives me a little bit of scope. The alternative is not son of Shah. No way! This is a guy who's lived a life of luxury, toddled around the world with enormous resources at his disposal, having scuttled away in ignominy and disgrace from the ill deeds and the consequences thereof of his late father, and who now comes forward with a blueprint. How jolly decent of the chappie for the future of Iran. An 18-month transition to a new government, but with the option of an 18-month extension on the 18 months. And this is a fellow who, in all solemnity, without even a titter or so much as a smile of embarrassment etched upon the contours of his visage, he proposes to have the lead role in the appointment of the head of the executive branch, the head of the judicial branch, and indeed the head of the legislative branch. You know, it's sounding awfully like an old monarchy. I used to think this chap thought he was the prince over the water. Perhaps he reckons he's the king over the water. I know not. you know, the sheer audacity, the temerity, the cheek, if I may use, as my late father would have done, an old Yiddish expression, the chutzpah of the man, the insolence of it, the brazenness of the conduct, and the complete absence of any capacity for self-reflection, self-awareness, consciousness of the absurdity of putting himself forward as an alternative for the country. I say to Mr. Pahlavi, sir, I don't know you personally. I've borne up stoically and with fortitude over the last 62 years without having made your acquaintance, and I dare say I shall continue to put one foot in front of the other in my remaining days on this planet. But I hope I can say on behalf of all of you in this hall, Mr. Pahlavi, you have an undistinguished past behind you. You have an undistinguished future in front of you. Don't call us, and you can be absolutely guaranteed and sure in the knowledge that we and the people of Iran will not call you. So, my friends, I come to the third and final point. You'll be relieved to know. What is the alternative? And in particular, what's the basis? What's the basis? What's the basis in the course of a political debate for determining what, as an academic might say, is the determinative yardstick of who should be regarded as the authentic and legitimate alternative? My friends, may I politely suggest to you that the most obvious and compelling source of legitimacy is being on the ground, not having run away, organizing resistance, sticking at it, empowering others, and conducting a life that is selfless, that is based upon service, and which accepts the inevitability periodically of sacrifice. That's what the MEK has been doing for almost 4.5 decades. That's why 100,000 of those wonderful human beings have been slaughtered by the regime, because they stand up to it. That's why 17 are on death row as we speak. That's why last year they engaged in 39,000 acts of publicity against the depredations of this most tyrannical regime, which, as has been articulated a number of times, per capita has the worst record for the execution of its citizens of any regime in any other part of the world. It is top of the league table of murderous infamy. That's the reality of this regime, and it's the NCRI and the MEK resistance units that have stood up to the regime. And not only have they shown bravery and courage and the indomitable power of the human spirit, but they have fought and are fighting and will fight for recognizably pluralist values. In short, my friends, we will win, and nothing on earth can stop us winning. Thank you.